and let us all do we can to build a better future.
So, on social media, we've been seeing the unfortunate crisis with immigration here in the United States, and especially with the actions of the Texas governor busing migrants to sanctuary cities. I'm asking everyone to give me patience for this segment because there's a lot of videos I want to share with you, especially some work that Hardlands Media did in 2018. Because at the end of the day, we have to really remember that these people who are coming here across the border, they're regular citizens escaping violence and madness. The reason why we are seeing so many people flee to the American border is because, let's face it, it's the ridiculous war on drugs. It's the rise of these drug cartels. It's been fueled by the United States' war on drugs. These ridiculous regime change wars that we're doing in Central and South America. These sanctions that we are imposing upon other nations. And if you're a regular person living in those countries that are being severely impacted by these dangerous things that are, again, being created by the United States and its foreign policy in Central and South America, a rational person will want to take themselves and their family as far away from the violence as possible. So now there was this huge situation taking place in Martha's Vineyard. And I want to pull up this first article here because the thing is, we talk about the kids in cages a little bit too. But I truly do wonder, whether the oh so honorable Obamas would let their house be open to the migrants who were in Martha's Vineyards. For example, a local calls on the Obamas to open their $12 million home to migrants. What's going on? Let's play it. A long-time Martha Vineyards resident, says she supports Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' moves to relocate migrants to the vacation island as a way of highlighting the border crisis, and says the Obamas should open their $12 million home to newcomers. What I would like this jagoff longtime resident of Martha's Vineyard to understand is that the reason why we're getting so many people coming here is because of U.S. foreign policy that's been continued on by both Democratic and Republican presidential administrations. Now, again, the idyllic enclave was plugged into chaos, and local tourist board declared a humanitarian crisis Thursday after just 50 Venezuelan migrants landed there. For those of you who don't know, the Florida and Texas governors and those that have to deal with the border, they know the real hypocrisy of the sanctuary cities. But let's be very clear here. These are human beings, very scared and frightened people that came to America to see a better future, to get a better lives for themselves and their families. And mark my words, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what the crisis will be, but someday the American people, we're going to need help from the rest of the world. I don't know what it's going to look like. And I dread to think how devastating it truly could be. But the way we're treating our fellow man here, and we're seeing how both Democratic and Republican politicians are treating these migrants, it will come back to haunt the American people. So this person, Jane Chittick, I think that's how you say her name, a former town official turned crime novelist, oh my goodness, has lived in Martha Vineyards for 42 years, but now spends part of the year in Florida. Speaking to the Post on Friday, Chittick said, "I don't think people like the Obamas with huge estates who live here in the summer will care about the migrants." God. Smug Martha Vineyard people. Anyways, they all have these signs: private property, no trespassing, do not come. I'm making her sound like Emperor Palpatine. Apologies for that, folks. I'm going to get serious here because this is a serious story. Police are patrolling. They're not going to be on the streets in town or the church where a lot of the migrants were put last night. So that's her. You know, she supports what Ron DeSantis and the Texas governor are doing. So there you go. So enough of her, because I'm tired of talking about her. So let's talk about really what else is happening. I want to pull this video up. Here's Governor Ron DeSantis. Let's talk about what is going on.
We are not a sanctuary state, and it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you to be able to go to greener pastures. Biden would fly people in the middle of the night, dump them all across this country. There was no warning on any of this. And all those people in DC and New York were beating their chests when Trump was president, saying they were so proud to be sanctuary jurisdictions, saying how bad it was to have a secure border. The minute even a small fraction of what those border towns deal with every day is brought to their front door, they all of a sudden go berserk, and they're so upset that this is happening. And it just shows you, their virtue signaling is a fraud. We are not a...
All right. Now, here's for a controversial statement. He's not wrong about the virtue signaling, because a lot of these politicians talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. A lot of these areas that claim to be sanctuary cities, sanctuary locations, some of it's in name only. Now, the actions of what the governor of Texas and the governor of Florida have done is deplorable, because, again, these are people. And a lot of these migrants were given horrible information about when they were going to arrive to these sanctuary locations. Now, we also talked about the story a little bit on Chicago Corner as well, and what's happening here in the city of Chicago. Our mayor, our also fantastic mayor, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, put some of these migrants outside of Chicago, areas that are not sanctuary cities. And the thing is, there's a very good chance, and I hope I'm wrong, but some of those migrants will probably be deported. Like I said, please, audience, give me patience, because we'll be playing the final video. It's some work that we did here at Heartlands Media, and if there are any migrants that are bused to Chicago, I'm willing to bet that the governor of Florida and the governor of Texas knows exactly what's going to happen to these immigrants who've come here to this country and who were bused to a sanctuary city of Chicago. So I want to pull up this video here because, again, these are human beings. These are people who are trying to get a better life for themselves and their families. So bear with me, because, again, they've been given wrong information. So let's play this video.
Present for them, and that there would be jobs and housing awaiting for them when they arrived. This was obviously a sadistic lie. Not only did those responsible for this stunt know that there was no housing and no employment awaiting the migrants, they also very intentionally chose not to call ahead to any single office authority on Martha's Vineyard so that even the most basic human needs arrangements could be made. Ensuring that no help awaited the migrants at all was the entire point. They were provided with a cartoonishly simple map of Martha's Vineyard and the United States and a brief brochure containing snippets from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts website and instructions to change their address with USCIS when they relocated. This is especially troubling as anyone with even the most basic understanding of the immigration proceedings knows that USCIS was not the agency with whom the migrants would have to record their addresses and has nothing to do with their cases in any way. It is clear that this was an intentional attempt to ensure that these migrants were removed in absentia when they failed to change their address with the proper agency. This was a purposeful derailment designed to prevent people from complying with federal immigration policies. This is problematic because the state should not be interfering with federal immigration policy. Before they boarded the planes, the migrants were processed by agents of the Department of Homeland Security, who listed falsified addresses on the migrants' paperwork.
I want to pause it here real quick. No human being is illegal. And again, notice that the residents of Martha's Vineyard, these who are very rich people, by the way, okay? They're very rich people. There was nothing stopping them from actually stepping up and helping out these 50 migrants who came to their location. Nothing really stopping them at all. Now, of course, spoiler alert, they were bused to a military base. I'm willing to bet that a lot of those migrants are going to get deported back. I'll be surprised if they're not. I hope I'm wrong. like I said, the actions of the Republican governors, but also of a lot of these politicians in these sanctuary cities, these actions will come back to haunt us. This is a failure policy. You want to stop the border crisis? How about this? And again, you hear a lot of these state and local politicians say we need a national solution. Well, how about this? Let's end the sanctions. Let's end the ridiculous war on drugs. The war on drugs has been lost. It's over. It's over. Sorry for many of those people who think, oh yeah, we could defeat the war on drugs. We could win the war on drugs. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because who's buying the drugs? Mr. and Mrs. America. Okay, simple as that. Simple fact. Probably a lot of these people from Martha's Vineyard too are buying the drugs. They're buying the good stuff, the magnifique stuff, right? Let's end the regime change wars that are happening in Central and South America. Let's end that. Because a lot of U.S. foreign policy impacting Central and South America is what's causing a lot of people to leave these war zones, these unstable nations, because of U.S. foreign policy. There was nothing stopping these people from Martha's Vineyard from doing the right thing. But then again, knowing the Republican governors, they would have kept on busing them over and over again. Especially with the earlier segment with that Jagoff lady saying, well, why doesn't the Obamas open up their $12 million home? Hey, let's also look at the policies of the Obama-Biden administration from 2008 to 2016, where under his administration, those kids in cages, that happened under his watch. Spoiler alert, that happened. Continuing on.
Agents apparently chose random homeless shelters all across the country, from Washington to Florida, to list the migrants' mailing addresses, even when told by the migrants that they had no address in the U.S. According to the paperwork provided to them, the migrants are required to check in with ICE office nearest to the fake address chosen for them by DHS, or be permanently removed from the United States, with some required to check in as early as this coming Monday. It could not be clearer that this is an attempt to ensure that these people are ordered removed, even as they try as hard as they can to comply with the...
Correction, those cages were built under the Bush administration. I just got a notification about that. Thank you, and shout out to the audience that also put in that correction there too. But then again, they were still continued on under the Obama-Biden administration too. So there we go. Thank you again for those who just put that in the live stream chat too for that correction. Apologies for that misstatement.
Instructions provided to them. There is no other reason to list as someone's mailing address a homeless shelter in Tacoma, Washington, when they ship him to Massachusetts. It is sickeningly cruel, throwing obstacles in the way of people fleeing violence and oppression, some of whom walked through 10 countries in the hopes of finding safety. It is shameful and inhuman. Many of these victims were deprived of medical care despite clear existing injuries. These are human beings who were deprived of basic human rights. To the people who find themselves, these wonderful people who find themselves plane wrecked on our island, I have a message for all of them. You are not alone.
But you're not going to stay here. Again, you're not going to stay here, folks. That's just how it's going to be.
We have your backs. We are proud
to
be here for you. And we've got you.
Yeah, we've got you tickets out of here.
If the intention of those who perpetrated this horrendous act was to create a crisis, you have failed. Their demeanor is kind. Their demeanor is grateful. And their demeanor is just that they...
Okay. But then again, look, people Martha's Vineyard, look, you people got money, right? And what happened, again, what the actions of the Texas governor and the governor of Florida have done is wrong and inhumane, but they know what they're doing because they know these sanctuary cities are BS. And how do I know that? Because Chicago being quote unquote a sanctuary city, there's some really shady stuff. Like I said, audience, I'm building up for it because you're going to find out what's probably going to happen, especially to the migrants that were sent here to Chicago. Pat Brannigan brought up in the live stream chat that a lot of the migrants were taken out and put into DuPage County. Now, Chicago is in Cook County, and Chicago is supposedly a sanctuary city. Is DuPage? Not really. Not really, my friends.
want to be doing everything right. Their biggest concern today is that many of them have dates to appear in San Antonio Monday morning, Tacoma, Washington Monday.
Okay, so enough from her. She's, obviously her heart is kind of, sort of in the right place, kind of, sort of, and I say that. But look, when push comes to shove, when they have to do the right thing, many of these people from Martha's Vineyards are just going to just say bye-bye to all these people. How do I know that? How do I know that? Just because of this. Bye-bye. All right, get on the bus. Bye. Can't stay here. Can't stay in Martha's Vineyard. This all right neighborhood. Yep. Hugs. Bye-bye.
¿Cómo sientes? ¿Bien?
And they're going away. They're going to a military camp. Yep.
New York. Yeah, I love it. I know.
Oh, they love it. You just can't stay here. You just can't stay here, folks. You can't stay here. This is a rich white people neighborhood, after all. See, again, most of these sanctuary cities are BS, and I bet the Florida governor and the governor of Texas know this, as do a lot of people in politics. Probably the people who don't know about this are the American people, because when they hear sanctuary city, especially on social media, think, oh yes, areas like Martha's Vineyard or Chicago, they got Democrats running the place. They got a good soul. Here's the thing: both Democratic politicians and Republican politicians, they're all jagoffs. If you're gonna come to me and say, oh, Team Red is pretty good because Republicans care about freedom. Oh no, Team Blue is better because Democrats care about freedom. Don't give me that BS. I'll vote third party. I'll vote independent. I'll be damned if you're going to look me straight in the eye and tell me that, oh, the Republicans or Democrats are better. I'm not wasting my time. If you want to be brainwashed and think that one of these two parties actually gives a damn about you, well, then you're a very good puppet, because you, as a voter, don't have a seat at the table. So I just want to play just a few short snippets of Governor Pritzker and Mayor Lori Lightfoot talking about the situation happening here in Chicago. Because like I said, I'm building up to it. Because you're going to find out, especially, I don't know what's going to really happen to the people from Martha's Vineyard, the migrants that were sent there. But they were bused to a military base. They had to activate, I think, around 125 National Guardsmen to deal with 50 migrants. But okay, a lot of those people from Martha's Vineyard do have the power and connections to help those people, but then again, I don't know. When push came to shove, they just said, "Get on the bus, bye, we love you, get out of here." So here, let's check this out.
Well, we are still examining and interviewing the folks who have come to Illinois and listening to their stories about whether or not they willingly got on these buses, knew where they were going, were given the information appropriate, and the legal authorities in the state of Illinois, specifically our Attorney General, the General Counsel's office, and the Governor's office, the Corporation Counsel for the city of Chicago, all looking into whether or not there is criminal liability for what they've done.
Well, we heard that they signed waivers. They knew exactly where they were going. Some wanted to go to Chicago because they have family members in the surrounding states. So you're saying that some might have been kidnapped?
I'm suggesting to you that even if someone's...
Now, again, look, I'm not a fan of Pritzker here because, again, he's a Democratic lawmaker, just like Republican lawmakers. They're all really good professional liars. But this was a big call out by the governor of Florida and the governor of Texas, because many of these sanctuary cities will never follow through with any of their actions. or pretend to really be who they say they are.
Signed a
Let me go ahead and hit something here real quick. Stop sharing right here. All right. Now, I want to pull up something else here for everyone to see. That was just Governor Pritzker right here. I want to pull up this wonderful, interesting video that we did here with Hardlands Media way back in the day. Let's play for the people. Now again, let me rewind that for the people, just so you can see it for yourselves again one more time. Now this was in 2018. On July 16th, over 100 people, including NWI resistance, Chicago-based activists, organized labor unions, local face groups, and others gathered to protest the Gary Chicago International Airport for its use by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as a staging ground for deportations. So, let me explain what the Gary Chicago International Airport is to our viewing audience. This is some early work that we did when we did field work way back between 2017 all the way up to 2019. This is a story we covered in Indiana. Indiana being a neighboring state to Illinois. The Gary Chicago International Airport is a location that was used for nonviolent migrants who lived either in Illinois, Indiana, I believe Wisconsin, Michigan, and Kentucky. They are sent here, and many of them would be chained like animals and have to crawl up the steps onto the airport. Not onto the airport, but onto the airplanes. Like I said, as I said earlier in the live stream, many of these migrants who were sent to Chicago and then put in DuPage County, I fear that this will happen to them. I hope I'm wrong. This is one of these moments where I want to be called out and say, no, Kit, you're wrong. Those migrants that were sent here to Chicago are now setting up and living their best lives, and they're safe. I hope that I'm going to get that news. And I hope I don't get the information that they get deported. But I fear that this will happen.
We have seen the buses, we have seen the human beings shackled and forced onto the planes, mothers and fathers separated from their children. The city of Gary claims they have nothing to do with these deportations, yet they have protected ICE with large numbers of Gary SWAT officers, sheriff's deputies, and state police, and have forced demonstrators into a gated parking lot surrounded by armed police. The Gary Jet Center has built 3 new buildings with hangars and is about to open a customs building. Up until now, O'Hare has handled international deportations, but it seems that Gary is doubling down on working with ICE to separate families with racist deportation.
We need to do something. We need to fight. We need to stop this deportation, this criminalization of immigrants in this country. Every day there's something on the news that just makes me so angry, and we need to stop this.
And it's going to get worse, my friends. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So we need to hold the line. We are the last line of defense.
This fight is a long-term fight that we all have to be in it together.
Everyone, this is not a Democratic fight or a Republican fight. It's a moral issue. It's a moral fight. Remember, the previous president, Barack Obama, was dubbed the deporter in chief. So it's not a right wing, it's not a left wing, it's a human fight. It's a fight for humanity.
It's been going on for years, probably, right, since before Donald Trump became president. But it's become a much larger operation since being in charge, right? It's like the numbers of deportees getting out of this airport has increased, probably double, threefold.
And this airport deports for all of Indiana, all of Illinois, all of Wisconsin and Kentucky here.
Usually there's a couple of buses, 2 or 3. It's really sad when you see it because it's all blocked out. I mean, the windows are all blocked out and everything. They, of course, have police escort. Then when they bring them to the planes, it's like they're shackled, and then the plane windows are blocked out too. And it's really, really sad.
My sister was part of deported from Chicago airport, actually. She was sent back. She was only here to visit for 1 week, and she was sent back just because of the executive order that went into effect while she was on the plane.
We are here every Friday, right? Today was a much larger crowd and quite effective because we actually, we stopped the plane. Well, not directly, but they suspended the flight today.
We're going to have to invade the politics, and we're going to have to also get our feet in the street and put our bodies on the line. And that's the main way that we're going to be able to overcome this. And in between elections, elections matter. But the fact is that we need to invade those elections, not just pick the lesser of two evils.
All right, that's some of the earlier work that we did for Hard Lens Media. So there we go. Let me stop sharing the screen here. So let me give you my final thoughts. These actions that our politicians are doing to these migrants, these policies will come back to haunt the American people. The reason why we're having a border crisis is because of U.S. foreign policy, the war on drugs, sanctions, regime change wars, doing coups. That's what's happening. Shout out to Convo Couch, who's been doing phenomenal work covering elections in Central and South America. Check out their work. Number 2, these sanctuary cities, they're sanctuary cities and locations in name only. The governor of Texas and the governor of Florida know what they're doing. Abbott and DeSantis, they know what they're doing. And many of these lawmakers in sanctuary cities are now being called out for their hypocrisy, being called out for their failures, being called out whether there truly are sanctuary locations. And as we've already seen, especially with the people of Martha's Vineyard, they were so happy just to say hello to all the people. Hi, how are you doing? Bye-bye now, get on the bus. We have to be better than this as a people. But sadly, nothing will fundamentally change so long as we keep voting Democratic and Republican lawmakers who profit off of the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, and all the wonderful corporations that are tied to earning a profit of what's happening at the border. If you still vote Democrat and Republican, you are contributing to the nightmare. The only innocent people in this are the migrants who are fleeing these war zones and these conflict areas because of U.S. foreign policy. That's the real bad guy. Not an average person trying to look for a better life. And I got to tell you, I hear some of these stories, what some of these migrants have to do, the long distance they have to get to the land of the free. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'd break. I think I'd die on the way. If I had to go through that kind of arduous march, I wouldn't make it. I'd collapse. I'd die. I couldn't do it. That takes courage to cross dangerous rivers, war zone areas, gang-controlled land, mountains, inhospitable terrain. I can't imagine because you know what? I really can't imagine. I don't know what that's like. But I fear that all these migrants that have been sent to these sanctuary locations are somehow, in some way, going to be deported. And I hope people will private message me and say, hey, Kit, you're wrong. They're all okay. That would be a sight. But my cynical mind is telling me otherwise.